Hello, welcome to this review of FeelVR Pedals 1. I recently received these sim racing pedals I'd backed on Kickstarter a few years ago. After a successful Kickstarter campaign, the Ukrainian company, FeelVR, became victims of their own success. They promised to design and sell affordable direct drive wheels and load cell pedals with a price tag of high-end belt-driven wheels. They fully funded their Kickstarter campaign within a couple of hours, generated around $500,000 in funding. But they struggled trying to develop the wheel and manufacture the pedals at the same time. Communication with the backers suffered until, as a last resort, they delivered a few of the pedals to generate publicity and new orders. But it was too late. They'd run out of funds and the project disappeared from the internet, leaving a lot of customers disappointed and angry. Now they have risen again from the ashes with a new owner and new funding. A process is in place to get the pedals delivered to the original backers or give out refunds to those who choose it. I decided to get them instead of a refund to support the company and compare them to what I'd used before. Perhaps this can help racers decide if they are viable at the price point. When FeelVR disappeared and it looked like they weren't coming back, I decided to buy some pedals to replace my Logitech G27s. I've now used the Herzingfeld Sprint pedals for about 1.5 years at this point. I've used modified Logitech pedals for a few years before that. I've also used the Fanatec Club Sport V3 pedals occasionally. The customs value of the pedals was around €250, which means they'll be slightly more expensive than the Thrustmaster TLCM load cell pedals and the Fanatec CSL load cell pedals, but around €120 less than the Fanatec Club Sport pedals, although at this point the final price is not known. The pedals arrived fully assembled with all three pedals. Throttle and clutch use contactless Hall sensors. The brake uses a 50 kilo load cell with rubber dampers and a preload spring. When unpacking the pedals, the first thing I noticed was the pedal plate edges were really sharp. It's no issue when driving, but pay attention when handling the pedals. I'm not going to delve deep into the technical details of the pedals. If you're interested, I advise watching Barry's or Lawrence's more professional reviews, which will be linked in the description. The all-metal construction and pedal weight gives a feel of quality to the product. I did notice some similar issues SRG had, mainly that the pedal rods had some rust on them, most likely a symptom of long storage time. It didn't affect the smoothness of the pedals, and wiping the rust off and re-oiling them is probably enough to guarantee hassle-free functionality. Also, the look of the pedals with the red accents is a matter of taste, but the coloured plates can be removed, painted, or left as is. For me, they give a nice touch compared to many other pedals. When comparing the pedals to my standard pedals, the first difference was the long travel on the throttle, almost twice as long as my sprints. Also, the preload of the brake pedal was too light, so I shortened the throw on the throttle and tightened the preload spring on the brake pedal. Unfortunately, the set doesn't include different damper rubbers, so the pedal hardness can't be customised. Hopefully, more will be available later. Other customizations include changing the pedal plates, the space between the pedals, and so on. Most of the essential adjustments can be made by modifying the corresponding bolt placements on the pedals. The throttle. By default a long travel, but adjustable. Feels smooth, but not as smooth as my sprints. In that sense it's perhaps more authentic. Longer travel may actually help with controlling the gas, so maybe I'll try a longer one on my sprints as well. Some rust in the rod, but it doesn't seem to matter. It can be easily cleaned and oiled. In summary, good feeling. No usability complaints. The brake. Slightly rubbery feel when pushed hard, but braking is consistent and allows, well, at least for me, good lap times. If you're used to a harder brake, then this might disappoint. Perhaps FeelVR will come up with a harder rubber stack as an option. Users coming from Logitech or Thrustmaster pedals will definitely notice an improvement. The clutch. There's a light bite point that may be more noticeable if the spring tension is adjusted. By default it's usable, but linear and slightly too light. During testing it didn't really bother me, so I didn't change the default tension settings. I didn't notice any metal-to-metal noises, but I did oil every joint just for precaution. I think that helped make them feel slightly smoother too. Software and instructions. There's a downloadable FeelVR control program to calibrate the pedals. Top and bottom dead zones can be set, very basic, but functional. There was a quick guide in the package, but no full instruction manual. It should be priority 1 for FeelVR, as there are many ways to tune the pedals. For example, basic engineering skills are required to make the pedals stiffer. Unfortunately, I didn't have the best materials to attach the pedals to my rig, so I used a hardboard that the pedals came with and attached it to some wood I'd laying around. That made the brake flex more than I would have liked, but for some reason, after a few laps, it didn't matter that much. I'll probably make a similar plate I have with my sprints to attach the FeelVR pedals more securely and get even more out of them. If you absolutely need 100% non-flexing pedals, you may have to use your own base plate and stiffen them more with an additional supporting bolt between the pedal sides. The feeling compared to my sprints is softer. I could feel there's a stack of rubber inside the pedal cylinder. I have a harder brake setup with my Hosenfelds, so the feeling was definitely softer with a slightly longer travel. They were closer to my Fanatec Club Sport. To my surprise, considering the weak fixation to my rig, after a few laps the pedals started to feel pretty good. I'd had 2 weeks of semi-serious practice for a race in Assetto Corsa with my sprints, but I managed to make a new personal best with the same car on the same track in 16 laps, so not a bad result for the new pedals. In summary, I had high expectations based on the hype of the early days before Kickstarter. Even though I really can't compare them to my sprint pedals, they are fun. Fun to finally own them and fun to drive. They're good in the sense that you probably don't feel limited by them if you're coming from a Logitech, Thrustmaster or even some Fanatec pedals. They can likely be even better than the higher mid-end models of those pedals. But FeelVR should pay a little more attention to the finish of the pedals. The pedal plates are really sharp and shouldn't be. I'm going to keep the pedals. They're an excellent upgrade to my old G27 rig. Thank you for watching.